Hi folks, hope you've been having a good week. We're on to part 2 now of our Lockdown Diaries video series, and this week we're going to hear from Chris Angwin. So Chris, over to you.
It's not been that different. What did I do before? I went to work, I went to church, I had interests, I went hill walking, I went to the theatre, I kept in close contact with my family. Well, I still do all these things. I go to work, I get up, I have breakfast, I give Janice a kiss, I'm off to work, dear, and I walk 5 metres into the dining room where I do my work. And there's a great bunch of people at work. We support each other, we have regular calls, and we get on with work. It's a little bit different, but we continue to do more or less what we did before. I go hill walking. I'm very fortunate. Nearby where we are, there are lots of hills. They're only about 100 metres high, but and we've never been up them before. But there's time in the evening to set off and go to all sorts of little hills and walks in the forest and walks in the wood. And that's been great fun, finding out things about the local area which I didn't appreciate properly before. So that's been good. Going to the theatre. Last weekend we watched an outdoor performance of The Taming of the Shrew. Unfortunately, I didn't do what I normally do before I go and watch a Shakespeare play, which was read up to see what it's all about. So consequently, because it's kind of not written in English really, it was a little bit incomprehensible, and I think I slept through a fair bit of it. But hey, I probably do that at the theatre sometimes anyway. We can listen to the RSNO, the Royal Scottish National Orchestra, and we've watched some of the Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals, so that's been good fun as well. We go to church on a Sunday. Well, that's different, but I can still do that. So on a Sunday, I would we'll have breakfast. We'll then sit down and we'll listen to Scott. We'll play through the hymns that Elaine has chosen for us, and then we'll have coffee afterwards. That's good fun. And there's other opportunities. We can go to a quiz night occasionally. We can attend a prayer meeting. We can go to a fellowship group. So we still do that. Family. My family don't live very near me, so I contact them on the phone, but I can still do that. It's great fun. We haven't tried Zoom for that yet, but maybe that's something for the future. I think probably there'll be plenty of opportunity to do that. So kind of the same, but different. Some things I'm grateful for during lockdown. Before I did this, I went for a walk in the sun. It's a lovely day in the garden, and it's been great. Again, I haven't really appreciated what I've got before, but because I'm working from home, I can just pop out into the garden for 5 minutes, and it's wonderful to watch. There's a particular plant, I don't know the name of it. It's yellow. But I've watched it over the last month, from there being very little evidence there was anything there at all, to a tight kind of fish-shaped bundle of leaves, almost like buds, but they're just leaves. And then when I went out this morning, it's grown to about 1 foot high, and little clusters of yellow flowers have emerged, and that's absolutely super to see things growing. And then you look next door to that, and there's a kind of poppy thing. It's not red yet, but you're seeing the tight buds, and I think, well, that's something to look forward to. That's gonna come soon. So that's been super. And what else am I grateful for? Some of maybe the forgotten people. We all appreciate the medical staff, but I'm just conscious that the food doesn't get to the shops by magic. There's a whole supply line of people who are working really hard so that, once a week I can just pop into the shops and buy food. And it's not that different now to what it was before. I can buy toilet rolls. I can buy sanitizer. It doesn't appear by magic. So I'm really grateful for the hardworking people who can't, like me, work from home. So that's what I'm grateful for. I did one of these things in print rather than as a video, fairly near the start of the lockdown. So I thought I would just read out what I said then, and then perhaps say a bit more about that. What do I find challenging? I find it challenging to not be in control, but the challenge comes with the consolation that I was never in control anyway, and it's good to be thrown back to a day-by-day reliance on the one who made me and keeps me safe. And it's interesting, that is, in a sense, that's still the same challenge, but in a different kind of way. What I find is, and I maybe reflected it on my typical days, what I'm up to, is that at the beginning we were all a bit frightened and a bit uncertain, and I know we probably still are, but it kind of becomes the new normal, and you get used to how things are to a certain extent. And I find the challenge is you kind of forget that what you did at the beginning, that you were very conscious that you were helpless and you couldn't do anything to make things better. It was just this thing that had been superimposed on you. But then you learn to cope. You do things. You commit it to God, and He helps you through it. And then, kind of 3-4 weeks on, maybe a couple of months on now, I don't know. I find it strangely, it's a human thing, I suppose, that you kind of forget. You kind of start to think, what made this normal? What helped me to cope? Well, it must have been something I did. And you get used to how things are, and that's good in a sense. But I think I need to remind myself daily that it's God that is helping me, that helps me every day, that maybe helps me to focus on today. Because there are still challenges for the future. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the winter, but there's a sense in which we can leave that in God's hands. And as things change, as things evolve, all we can do is take up that challenge, I suppose, of each day committing our lives for that day to God and allowing Him to help us, and remembering that it is Him that's helping us. So yeah, that's a continuing challenge, I think, for the lockdown. Some words of encouragement, maybe. I'm very conscious that I've been in God's hands all my life, even when I didn't know it. And I'm going to read a verse in a minute. But it was a verse that was actually given to me by no less a person than the Bishop of Bradwell. That's a kind of Anglican thing. When you get confirmed, you get... I didn't know the man, but he sent me a book. And in that book was a verse I'm going to read to you in a minute. And interestingly enough, I'd forgotten that until not that recently, but I opened up the little kind of book I was given at the time, and there it was at the front. But it's a verse that has always been important to me for whatever reason, and has kind of sustained me and encouraged me through my Christian life. So It's a familiar verse, but it's from Micah chapter 6, verse 8, and it says, "He has showed you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God." And that's just an encouragement to me every day. There's a sense in which God doesn't ask us to do too much, but each one of us has things that we're given to do each day. We have opportunities, we meet people, we come across situations. Okay, we're in an extreme situation at the moment, but it's no different. Each day is new, and the important thing I've always found is what is important for me is to act justly, to do what is right, whatever the circumstances, whatever the world expects, to love mercy, to be, whatever that means for you, to be gentle, to be slow to judge others, and just have a spirit, God's spirit of helpfulness and gentleness as you go through life. And then I kind of alluded to it under the challenge section, and to walk humbly with your God. Again, it is so easy to forget that the reason we're able to act justly and to love mercy and to be God's messengers here is because he enables us to do that. And the challenge for me is to, as I do that every day, to remember that, sorry, it's not a challenge, we're on to encouragement now. The encouragement is that as we do these things, importantly, we remember that it isn't in our strength, that it is God who continually helps us as we walk humbly with him, as we acknowledge his claims on our lives, that we are able to do what is right, to act justly, and to love mercy. So that's an encouragement for me. I hope it's an encouragement for you also. Thank you.